Morning, dear children. Recently, we have finished off with the Russian Revolution, a very important chapter of history. Today, we are going to start with the economics chapter, and the name of the chapter is Poverty as a Challenge. To children, have you ever thought, what does poverty mean? Of course, poverty means the poor people living in our country, in our society. Do you know what is the percentage of the poor people in our country? Yes, there are many poor people in our country who don't even have a time's meal, who couldn't fulfill their livelihoods. And it is a big challenge for our government to remove this poverty from our country. Is it possible? What do you think? Can the government, along with its citizens, will be able to remove poverty? Let's see what are the measures taken by the government of India to remove poverty from our country. Let's start with the explanation of the chapter. So children, first we'll have a quick look what does poverty mean and how it is a challenge. In our daily life, we come across many people whom we think are poor. They could be landless, laborers in villages, or people living in overcrowded juggies in cities. They could also be beggars with children in tatters. We see poverty all around us. In fact, every fourth person in India is poor. Let's have a quick look at the two typical cases of poverty. First, urban case. This is a story of Ram Sharan. 33-year-old Ram Sharan, he works as a daily wage laborer in a wheat flour mill. He earns rupees 1500 per month when he finds employment, but the money is not enough to take care of his family of 6, and in his family he had himself, his wife and his 4 children whose ages were between 6 months to 12 years, and he has to send money to his old parents who live in a village near Ramgarh. Ram Sharan lives in a one-room rented house in a crowded urban settlement in the outskirts of the city. His wife, Santa Devi, she also works as a part-time maid in few houses and she earns rupees 800. They manage a meager meal of dal and rice twice a day. But that food is never enough for everyone. His elder son, he works as a helper in a tea shop and he earns rupees 300. His 10-year-old daughter takes care of the younger siblings. None of the children, they go to school and they have only 2 pairs of second-hand clothes. Shoes are a luxury for them. The children have no health care when they fall ill. So children, after reading this story, what does it come to your mind? What do you feel? We feel that though he earns 1500 per month, but as he has a big family, so he is not able to take care of his family properly, and the children, they are not able to go to school. Now let's see another story which runs behind the village. It's a story of Lakha Singh. Lakha Singh belongs to a small village near Meerut in Uttar Pradesh. His family, he doesn't owe any land, so they do odd jobs for the big farmers. At times, they get rupees 50 for a day's work, and the family of 8 cannot always manage 2 square meals a day. They live in a hut in the outskirts of the village. The women of the family, they spend the day chopping fodder and collecting firewood in the fields. And he had to start earning when he was just 10 years old. His father was a TB patient who passed away 2 years ago due to lack of medication, as no proper treatment was there for him, so he passed away. Now his mother also suffers from the same disease, and life is slowly ebbing away. Though the village has a primary school, but Lakha did not went there, as he started earning at the age of 10. New clothes are bought once in a few years, and soap and oil are a luxury for the family. So children, what do you find in the two stories? Whose condition is more worse, though the condition of Lakha Singh as well as Ram Saran, they both are not good, but the condition of Lakha Singh is more worse than that of Ram Saran, as he is earning very less and he has more family members. So this is what is poverty. What does this show? They show that poverty means hunger and lack of shelter. Poverty also means lack of clean water and sanitation facilities. Poor people, they are in a situation in which they are ill treated at almost every place. It also means lack of a regular job at a minimum decent level. So, these were the points of poverty. Now, let's have a look how the poverty is seen by social scientists. Poverty is looked through other social indicators like illiteracy level, lack of general assistance due to malnutrition, lack of access to health care, lack of job opportunities, lack of access to safe drinking water, sanitation, etc. These are the measures, these are the points of poverty which is seen by social scientists. Analysis of poverty based on social exclusion and vulnerability is now becoming very common. Now, what is social exclusion? According to this concept, poverty must be seen in terms of the poor having to live only in a poor surrounding with other poor people, excluded from enjoying social equality of better of people in better surroundings. So this is what social exclusion means. Now let's see what is vulnerability. Vulnerability to poverty is a measure which describes the greater probability of certain communities, like members of a backward caste or individuals such as a widow or a physically handicapped person of becoming or remaining poor in the coming years. So what does vulnerability means? It means that the certain communities or individuals like physically handicapped people, people belonging to the backward caste, at present they are poor, then they can be remain poor in the coming years. So that is what is vulnerability. So this is the vulnerable groups, a graph showing a graph of the year 2000 India showing the most vulnerable groups. What is poverty line? A common method used to measure poverty is based on the income or consumption levels. A person is considered poor if his or her income or consumption level falls below a given minimum level necessary to fulfill basic needs. So children, what is poverty line? A person is said to be poor when his income or consumption level falls below a given minimum level or when he is not able to fulfill his basic needs. So that is what is poverty line. The present formula for food requirement while estimating the poverty line is based on the desired calorie requirement. So what is the basic formula today? The basic formula for food requirement while estimating the poverty line is based on the desired calorie of food which is required per person. The accepted average calorie requirement in India is 2400 calories per person per day in rural areas and 2100 calories per person per day in urban areas. So children, the required calorie differs from rural areas to urban areas. It's 2400 in rural areas whereas 2100 calories per person per day in urban areas. Since people living in rural areas they engage themselves in more physical work, calorie requirement in rural areas are considered to be higher than urban areas. Children, it is very clear that in rural areas, especially in villages, more physical work, hard work is required. So this is the reason why more calories are required in rural areas as compared to the urban areas. This is the estimates of poverty in India. You can go through this chart and compare the ratio between rural and urban areas in the respective years. And this is again the poverty ratio in selected Indian states according to the survey of 1999 and 2000. This is the poverty comparison among the different countries of the world according to the World Development Report 2001. And children, now moving on to the causes of poverty. What are the different causes of poverty? First, low level of economic development under the British colonial administration. So low level during the time of the Britishers, there was very little economic development. So that is one of the main reason till now the people are victims of less economic development. The failure at both the fronts, promotion of economic growth and population control, perpetuated the cycle of poverty. So the promotion of economic growth and the population control. Day by day the population increased, but comparatively the economic growth was not up to the mark. So this is another cause of poverty. Irregular small incomes, like we saw the case of Ram Charan and Lakha Singh, small incomes and big families, huge income inequalities. The income inequalities, that is, there is a difference in the income. Socio-cultural factors, economic factors. These were the few major reasons, causes of poverty. Now let's see few anti-poverty measures by the Indian government. The current anti-poverty strategy of the government is based broadly on two planks: promotion of economic growth, targeted anti-poverty programs. So the strategy of government is based on basically two programs: promotion of economic growth and targeted anti-poverty programs. That's all for today. Children, go through the chapter. It is an interesting chapter, and try to understand the causes of poverty and the story of Ram Charan and Lakha Singh. That's all for today. Thank you. Have a good day.